Fulham 2, Tottenham 1. The relegation fears cannot be ignored any longer. Spurs could very well be on the way down. Tottenham, terrible. The scoreline looks tight, but actually, Perry, Fulham should have finished it off way before it got nervy towards the end.
Yeah, very much so. You've got a team in Fulham who are very well structured, very well set up. They've got a good spirit there. You know, there's no like massive egos. They've got players like Harry Wilson, who's probably playing the best football of his career. It'd be interesting to see what they do with him because obviously his contract's up at the end of the season. The thing that completely summed Spurs up in the whole game was Iwobi's goal, because we was watching it, all watching it together. When it comes from to Iwobi on the right-hand side, no Spurs player goes and closes him down with intent. He's got loads of time. Harry Wilson just jogs into like the 10 position inside right of the box. Iwobi rolls it into him. Wilson has probably 6-7 yards of space and no one goes to engage him. So then he can just like lay it off and put it into Iwobi's path. Iwobi cut. He's got time because apparently he's got these elasticated groins that he can got different angles, or he's got a different technique with his like inside of his right right foot side.
Amazing.
Where he gets power on it as well. And it was a brilliantly crafted goal from Fulham, right? You're looking at it from Spurs, you're thinking, you're not playing like a team that you think that is in relegation trouble, and you're fighting for your lives and you're putting your bodies on the line. So I said about, was it 3 or 4 weeks ago, Sam, that I thought that Spurs were in a relegation battle. I didn't think they'd tail off this badly and perform this badly. And for Igor Tudor, I know it's difficult from going in. He's got to try and implement his personality, but he's making really... Conor Gallagher, you're a big fan of Conor Gallagher, right? When I was looking at that game, he was playing on the right of a midfield four. He's completely out of position. Archie Gray is playing left back, out of position. He changes from a 3 to a 4.
Well, part of that, Perry, is the fact that they've got so many players out, and they, almost got a first team out at the moment, which is really hampering them in terms of who they can select. It means that they've got to play people out of position. There is nobody else to play left back. But you're absolutely right. It doesn't make it any easier for those players. I think most people, and I know what you mean, because I was one of those who said, I was talking to Stuart Pearce about it probably 6 weeks ago, and I said they won't go down, this Tottenham team, but they will be deep in it and probably survive because the others are so bad down there and won't get the points that are necessary. But, Crook, it's becoming a little bit more and more possible every single week that they could actually go down. What on earth have they done at that football club?
Yeah, well, especially with this game against Palace, because if you look at Palace's performance before the red card, they played very well. And obviously they got a big win in Europe last week to get into the round of 16. It looks like the players have made peace with Oliver Glasner's meltdowns and are focused now on the rest of the season. So I wouldn't be surprised if Palace go there and win. I really wouldn't. And then it will depend on what happens the previous night. Forest are going to lose at Man City. Not sure Fulham against West Ham is a foregone conclusion. And that piles the pressure on Tottenham if West Ham get a positive result there. The issue they've got, it's only 2 games in, they've made a dreadful appointment because they've got a firefighter who has got no experience of English football. They've brought him in because they think he can sort of shock the players into action. He sounds like Ralph Rangnick. He's chucking everybody under the bus. He's obviously not happy with the dressing room that he's walked into. They're not going to listen. They didn't want to listen to Thomas Frank, who had a long-term contract and was sort of softly. Why are they going to listen to this sort of disciplinarian knowing he's only going to be there until the end of the season? It's an awful dressing room where ego and entitlement outweighs ability and what they're actually producing on the pitch. So I make you right. The only way that Spurs stay up is if Forest and West Ham don't get enough points to go past them, because I can't see where the next Tottenham win is coming from.
You know what? They play at home. You said at Palace. The Spurs, we talked about the Arsenal fans having a big part to play for Arsenal winning the Premier League title. Spurs fans have a massive part to play in their home games because we was at the North London derby. The atmosphere was unreal, wasn't it? It was absolutely electric. They've got to make sure that atmosphere is, no matter if their team goes behind, because if they go 1-0 down against Palace at home, that stadium under Thomas Frank would have gone unbelievably toxic. They've got to make sure, the Spurs fans, that they don't, but they want to see their team putting up a fight. And I've just looked at Spurs' next 5 fixtures. Palace at home, Atletico Madrid away, Liverpool away, Atletico Madrid at home, Forest at home. They are unbelievably tough fixtures. And the thing that they have in their favour is they play Wolves, Leeds, and I mentioned about Forest. So they're going to be the 3 games.
Good luck beating Leeds.
Good luck beating Wolves.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But they're the 3 games that you look at them and you go, right, if we can take 6 points out of that, we're going to be okay. But the only thing I disagree with yours, Sam, is I think West Ham, even though they got big 5-2 up at Anfield because they're probably too open, West Ham are actually playing well at the minute. West Ham are...
But they're not getting enough points, though, Perry.
Yeah, but they've got different games. But they've got players in their team, like whether it's Somerville or Jarrod Bowen, are in good form. And they've got a structure and a belief in their manager. So Nottingham Forest have players that can get you out of trouble. We saw, obviously, Morgan Gibbs-White getting his worldie against Brighton. So I think you're saying that the other teams won't get enough points. I ain't too sure about that.
I didn't say that. I said that was my feeling 6 weeks ago. But now I'm starting to think, crikey, it is possible that they could end up going down. And that's because I don't think that Tottenham have realised as a group that they're actually in serious danger. Or if they have realised, I'm not sure they care, which is a real problem because a lot of, especially the most influential characters, will think to themselves, and I'm talking about Romero and Van de Ven, they'll think to themselves, well, if we go down, I'm off. So it doesn't really bother me. I'm not suggesting for one second that that is actually the case, but that's the vibe you get. That is the vibe you get when you watch them, when you spend time around. Listen, we've been there so many times. I've followed them in Europe. I've followed them at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium a lot this season. You know, you see that. You the way they react to the manager. I mean, Mickey van der Ven looks at Thomas Frank and Igor Tudor as if they're morons half the time. You know, and I don't know where that comes from. I don't know where the whole sort of the not listening to the manager stuff comes from, but it has certainly permeated that dressing room. That's what it feels like. And how you pull them out from this nosedive, I don't know. I think you're almost in a little bit of fingers crossed territory if you're Tottenham, because you've tried everything else. You've changed the formation. You fired the manager. There is no transfer window. You've done everything you can possibly do. You've still got the raft of injuries. I'm not sure there's much else. Just a quick word on Crystal Palace, because they're the team that they play on Thursday. Yeah. The big benefit that Tottenham have got, with all due respect, is Lacroix being out because he's suspended. He's a very good defender. If they play the kid Canvo, then Spurs will have a chance because his confidence has been shot to bits, hasn't it? I mean, he's made a lot of mistakes in the Conference League and in the and even in the Premier League. Actually, made one at the weekend as well. Palace were actually okay up until that penalty, but it is the home games now where they've got to take advantage. Tottenham, they've got to try and get everybody on their side like they did for the North London derby. And this one, maybe because of Lacroix's absence, they might be able to get something from. I don't know.
I bet you the atmosphere is nowhere near as red hot as it was against Arsenal. It'll be nervous, whereas it was defiant, wasn't it, against Arsenal?
Yeah, well, I think there was hope the new manager bounce they thought it was going to have. The thing with Igor Tudor as well is his interviews. You compare Vitor Pereira's interview to Igor Tudor's interview after the games, right? Vitor Pereira's was, I know we've got spirit, we've got fight in my camp. I know I've got the players. Even if Igor Tudor doesn't believe that he's got the fight or the spirit or the players, he's got to make the players believe. So he said one of his things where we'll see in the game, won't we? Have you got the leaders? Have you got the fight? Have you got the spirit? And he went, his answer should be unreservedly, I've seen these players, I believe in them. Even if he doesn't believe it, he's got to make the players believe it, that he respects them and he rates them. And the vibe is that we're all getting is he doesn't. He doesn't. And
they don't believe in him and he doesn't believe in them.
No,
it's a recipe for success.
They need Share to go in there.
It's an interim manager. It doesn't work. And I know your point to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and Michael Carrick. They're club legends, right? So they've got the buy-in from the fans. They've got the buy-in from the players. And both of them brought the feel-good factor back. You bring in someone from overseas who's never managed in the Premier League before, it's not going to have the same impact. And particularly if you've got a dressing room where they aren't the best in terms of attitude. I don't get the appointment. I don't understand the recruitment process. How do they stumble upon this guy?
It's a good question. And I think the issue I have with it is that when I sat down straight after that game against Newcastle and thought they're going to have to make a change here, we started to come up with ideas of who they could change Thomas Frank for. And there's not a great roster. There isn't. You know, that is a problem. You don't sit there. There's not a candidate that immediately leaps off the page. But how can you tell me that Igor Tudor is a better appointment than Robbie Keane?
Agreed.
For the simple reason that Robbie Keane understands Tottenham Hotspur, has infectious energy, and has a very good track record recently of being a successful manager. I know you're going to say to me, "Oh, yeah, that was in Israel. That was in Hungary." You still have to win. You know, at the end of the day, you still got to win, and he is winning. And Hungary is not the easiest place to win football matches in. The atmosphere is absolutely electric. So this is a guy who's done pretty well. Why have you decided to go for someone who's completely alien to your football club, who's got no experience of British football, rather than someone who's played for your club, understands British football, has coached in the league before, has been a part of the league before, and has been around English football before, and you've decided not to go down that route? It was absolutely perplexing to me, bearing in mind we all know, because we've spoke to people around him, that he would have absolutely jumped at the chance to be the Tottenham Hotspur manager. It seems very, very strange.